Hi everybody, Lisa here with another Vera Bradley Bag of the Day. Today I thought I would talk about um, the limited edition Persistence Patchwork Vera Tote. Uh, this tote was produced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, which gave the women the right to vote. Although, it should be an asterisk there, it gave white women the right to vote. I think it was still, I don't know the dates, I'm not so up on all that history, but I do believe it was at least 4 or 5 decades before women of color got the right to vote. So, sort of maybe a little bittersweet commemoration. Maybe it would behoove Vera Bradley to do another limited edition tote. um, find the date that where that became more all encompassing. That right, but I thought I would talk about this a little bit, and I can start. It's a very lovely tote, and I thought I would start with just by reading the hang tag. I haven't taken my tags off yet. It came with this hang tag, which is printed on one side with the pattern, and you can really get a good look at the star motif, which is a traditional quilting motif. It reads, Persistence Patchwork, standing together with strong women throughout history, we celebrate our common thread of sisterhood with this special style commemorating a historic stitch in time, the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. So, of course, I would imagine they went with a quilting motif because, well, it's traditionally an art form practiced by women, sometimes together in a group, sometimes in like a quilting bee kind of thing with many women working on one quilt. But also it sort of plays in that idea of, well, they say a stitch in time, but also joining together of lots of disparate pieces of fabric, right, into one cohesive whole. And so maybe there's that kind of symbolism. They do make use of the traditional, like I was just showing on the hang tag, the traditional star motif in quilting. But I do think that there's some other symbolism there, and that I do think stars are one of the symbols of the women's suffrage movement, along with a few others, like bluebirds, which are on here, and yellow roses. There are yellow flowers on here. I do have the other one. I'll show it on the other one. And so I'm wondering if that was one of the reasons maybe they went with some of these fabric choices in this particular design. Just one piece of fabric, but made to look like a pieced quilt. And it uses French ditzy, the lining of French paisley, and the French paisley fabric like swatches. So I'm wondering if maybe that's why, in addition to those being recent releases, I mean, they also sort of serve that dual purpose of the added symbolism. There are bluebirds. I'll show them. They're better on the other bag. I had to order this, and I wanted to be able to try to pick pattern placement, so I ordered two. I'll return one. Can I help you? So let me just, before I forget about it, let me show the bluebird and the yellow flower and the bees. There are bees on here, and bees also are a motif that kind of has some symbolism. They can symbolize good fortune, community, the sun, the goddess, fertility because of pollination. And so some of those things are sort of more female oriented in that sense of community. You can see why that would be related. So it also has some biblical significance, I think, sort of symbolizing Christ and his nature. The honey the bee produces sort of symbolizing his kindness, his gentleness, his sweetness, and the stinger, the bee, representing justice and the cross. So And I think there's a lot of symbolism going on here. It's not just like, oh, they threw bees on there. Of course, I immediately went to quilting bee when I saw the bees. It's very, very literal. Let me get my glasses out of the way before I crush them. I have all my stuff in here, which I'll get to, and so it's kind of heavy. Let's see if I can put it down. So, oh, right there you can see a bluebird. See if I can get it even closer. Sorry. A little shaking. My platform is shaking. So there's a bluebird and a bee right above it. And this is, people probably recognize this strip of fabric is the French ditzy strip, whereas the French paisley sections are the center squares in the star motif. And some of them do have flowers on them. I don't know that this bag is particularly good at illustrating that, but here's one with birds. Here's one with a bird. Oh, and there's the big yellow flower I was talking about. So yellow roses. These symbols that I'm throwing out there, and I only know a handful of them, are from different state suffrage movements. Like I think the bluebird one was more based in Massachusetts. This may have been based in Kansas. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's, technically a rose, but, good enough. Works for me. Anyway, the next thing I probably should talk about before I forget is the stitching, the quilt stitching on this. I've said this for a long time in a bunch of my videos where I talked about the Hadley tote, or I've talked about the deluxe Vera Tote or the small deluxe Vera Tote, which makes use of the channel stitching. The Hadley tote just has the channel stitching on the bottom. Oh, I see. You want back up now? Excuse me. The Hadley tote just has the channel stitching on the bottom, but it has that micro square quilting on the body of the bag. And that affects, hold on. Okay. Sorry. That affects the drape of the fabric. Absolutely. So I was so excited to see this channel quilting all over this bag because it definitely, I think it has something to do with the closeness of the columns of stitching. And when there's all that thread very close together, I feel like it kind of breaks up the stiffness of the fabric and it gives the fabric more drape. It's a problem when you drop toys, Molly Potsy. And it definitely creates a softer feel, a feel with more folds. The bag feels more lived in right off the bat, and it has more of like a luxe feeling, I think. And so that's why I love my deluxe Vera Tote. I just love that thing. And even the small. And I don't really like the small Vera. It's too precious for me. It's a little too small for me. But that small deluxe, that's the only small Vera Tote I have I absolutely love. So I was very excited to see that quilting here. And you can see the columns there. So I did pull out another limited edition quilting pattern. This is the 2020 QuiltCon limited edition. This was Cloud Vines Patchwork. You can see that star motif again, real bright here, which is nice. But this has that just the regular square quilting. You can also see they're still making use of this. And like I said, this is all one piece of printed pattern, but it's just made to look like a quilt top, a pieced quilt top. And they have these strips that are sort of looking like denim with stitching like you might see on the top of a quilt. And that's in this too. You can see it here. Slightly darker denim kind of color. I'm not so crazy about this element because I do feel like it darkens the whole thing, and it at times can create sort of like an H shape that's very pronounced. It's sort of broken up more here because of the straps, but you can see them. And one other thing I should mention about the fabric before I forget is I think when this came out, people were still sort of like on this high off of the Harry Potter release with the striped trim and the striped ribbon pulls. And everybody thought that's what this was, sort of making a connection with that. That's not what this is. This striped fabric here is a real nice throwback. It's a throwback to the lining of Animal Kingdom. This is Animal Kingdom. I've shown this in a recent video where I was in my car, sitting in my car in New York City, waiting for alternate side of the street parking to expire. This is the lining of Animal Kingdom. That's what this is. It's absolutely what this is. And I like that. It's a nice throwback. Works well. I like it when they hark back to their history a little bit. So something that I find very challenging about this bag is the pattern placement, because it has such obvious vertical elements, especially with these contrasting. You really notice them against these contrasting straps, which are denim fabric, which is nice. It's a nice light kind of color, medium kind of denim color, not too dark. And so when you see, you know, since this pattern has such obvious strip kind of elements, if they're not perpendicular, right, you know, absolutely straight up and down, especially when they're next to the strap, you really notice it. And you really notice it on the pocket. And I've seen a number of bags now where everything looks crooked. Everything looks like it's not put together right because of that. And one of these bags, I can show that. I have an example of that on one of these bags. But this one is particularly well done on the front. And for the most part on the back. So you can see that like this strip here is its full proper width, all the way from the top of the bag to the bottom, next to this strap. Where is the bag? There's one of these bags. Yeah, this one. This one, and it's still not bad. I've seen worse on people's bags, especially when it's on this front pocket. God, it looks really bad, like they just slapped the thing together and makes this whole thing look askew and like it's not level when that happens. But you can see here, this strip that's right next to the strap is wider up here, and as it gets down to the bottom, it becomes very narrow. That's not okay. That means the bag was not constructed properly. They're not paying attention to the alignment of everything. And with a pattern that has strong horizontal and vertical lines, you need to pay attention to that. Otherwise, it just really can look bad. So I was very pleased that with both of these, for the most part, I mean, when I put this bag on, this is not so noticeable, but my eye does go to it because I know it's there. The back is okay. The back is nice. It's frustrating because this bag has this nice star, more of the star element positioned in a way that is more visible than this one. But this one has better birds, and the alignment is better. The back of this one is nice too. Whoop. So on some of these pieces of French paisley, you do get birds. There's the upside down bird from the pattern. There are some, you can see, that's a nice shot of some of the birds in the French ditzy section. It's also got this sort of polka dot. I don't know anything about this fabric, whether this is a throwback to some other lining or whether it's just something new they just put in there, polka dots. But I do think, you know, and there's a bee. But I do think it's nice for that. It recreates that quilt look nicely, that pieced quilt look nicely. So this is your typical Vera size. You know, it's your standard size. Didn't measure. I should show the bluebirds. Yeah, there's a bluebird here. The bluebirds on the other one are better. But there's a bluebird right up there. I don't remember if I showed that already yet. And I love blue. And same as with this one. Not only do they look good with jeans, but they look good with red. These colors look great with red. I noticed that when I was using this and I was wearing a red shirt with it. It looks great. Red shirt and jeans looks great with these bags. And I will turn this inside out to show the lining. But it's your basic, you know, your slip pocket and your zipper pocket on top, ribbon zipper pull, which is nice, and soft plastic zipper. And the soft plastic zipper up top, I just have a sweatshirt in here right now to give it some body. And that hidden slip pocket up there. Just trying to, it's gonna fall if I let go. I think it's about 17 across the top. I never remember. You think I would? Yeah, it's about 17 because I measure this so much. And top to bottom is about 14. No removable base. I have washed, as I always say in my videos, I washed many of my Vera Totes, no problem. I just had to wash my French ditzy one because I got some Neosporin on it. Don't ask. I was worried, you know, it might stain. The stain might set if I didn't wash it right away. And just so people have an idea, because people always ask, what's the size difference? It's big with the small Vera and the regular Vera. So I just pulled out one of my small Veras. I don't have that many of them. So you can see it's quite a difference. If I put it on, you can see. Let me put it on. So, looks nice from a distance. Very small compared. You know. I think the strap drop is about 12, maybe on both of these bags. I think I would have liked the straps here to match the body of the bag, but they don't jump out too badly. Nice even from the sort of the front there. And it feels great. It has a softness because of that channel stitching. It's great. It really just has such a nice hand feel. Very luxurious. Really nice high-end kind of feel. Really? You steal her toy, Peaches? Such a toy hog. Should we get your toy back, Rosie? Okay. So, sorry about that. Life with dogs. Okay, so this is the one I'm leaning towards keeping because the alignment is very good. None of those vertical elements seem crooked, and the horizontal elements seem crooked. I was a little disappointed that this star element here is sort of falling off the front of the bag, so you don't get that sense of the star as much. That's what's making me hesitate. But this does have better bees and better birds. It's got more of the bluebirds. So because of that symbolism of the bluebird with some of the state suffrage movements, it's kind of hard for me to let go of that. Plus I love critters, so that almost becomes always the driving force. I think that's the bluebird up there. Yeah, that's nice, yellow bird. And the bee on the there and there. So I'm leaning towards this one, another bee, yellow flower there with the pink bird. So in here I have all my normal stuff. It's getting heavy. You can see, accommodates everything nicely. A hand sanitizer and a deep pocket in there. There are 6 slip pockets in there. I'm always saying they're great. They're a nice generous size and they go all the way down to the bottom of the bag. So they accommodate this, my taller hand sanitizer bottle, really well. And they keep it upright. This is a turn lock wallet in Floral Nightingale. I just switched out to this recently. I thought I'll keep with the bird theme. So I had been using Clementine for a while. Which I did show Clementine in a recent video. It was in my travel bag for stuff I had at my dad's. So that video is up there. All the Vera at dad's, if people are interested in that, and Clementine. but hard to resist the birds. And this is there's another one, the trim. This is nice in the vintage. The turnlock wallet in the vintage style is nice because it has that band of trim wrapping around, sort of on the spine of it. I have in another pocket here all sorts of mask stuff. Now this is just plastic. Get that out of there. And I started carrying around this small notebook. I think I want to get another one because I like this. I don't want this to get beat up. But this is French ditzy, and this is a small spiral notebook with a pocket. It's nice. Gives you a nice look at the birds. And of course that is picked up here. That's this fabric here. It's on both sides. And inside, the inner paper is kind of pretty too and has birds on it. Very pretty. And it has this one leaf, sort of like a heavier paper, and it has a pocket on each side. So you get 2 pockets. And then you get your basic, just your paper. And it is perforated. And it's got this sort of header space, which is nice for lists, I guess. I like the paper quality too. It's nice and heavy. It's a little bit heavier than what you might find in a regular like spiral notebook that you get at like the store, grocery store or something, Staples or something. So that's that. And this is small, which is why I had it in the bag. I don't know why I just sort of started wanting to carry around some paper with me in case I need to write something down. It's 6 by 8 1/4. You guys better not be ruining my quilt, especially you. Okay. And this was, I think this is an old, on a roll. I'm not sure exactly what this was called. This is Havana Rose. I mean, I hardly ever use this, you can see, because it still wants to flatten into the way it was when it was shipped. But I have a pen in here. That's my hesitation about carrying pens, is I'm always afraid they're going to leak. Or, because I like those pens that I'm just using a TD Bank pen right now because these are great. But I like the pens, the push down pen. But I'm always afraid if it's not a leaking issue, that it'll somehow get depressed in the bag, that mechanism, and that the point will be out and will leave the mark. So that's what I'm using this for. It somehow makes me feel better about carrying a pen. Can you say crazy? Anyway, my GPS pouch. Gloves and stuff. I tend to alternate what I carry latex gloves in now, but right now I just am sticking with this. I think this was the light up medium cosmetic. I'm not sure. Oh, what is that? Thread. Okay. Light up medium cosmetic for my charger cords because it gets nice and flat. Kind of molds to this whatever space is in the bag. This is the Mini Dome in Fruit Grove. I just have tissues, lip balm in there. And my various ID cases with photos and a lanyard. Oh, and my, again, coordinating the French Paisley Carson cell phone crossbody. This is one of 3 that I found. This is the only one with a bird. You can see a little bit of the bird there. And there's a bird on the back. And a little bit of the bird there. But thought it would coordinate well with this without being too matchy-matchy. Oh, and my iPad mini slips into that pocket really nicely there. So that's that. So, oh, and just some shopping cards, discount cards. Okay, so I'm going to try turning this out, inside out. Hopefully it won't mess up the base too much, because the lining is kind of cute. and related to the quilting theme. I'm surprised they didn't plop some bees down on this. But if anybody out there is a sewer or a quilter, you probably recognize this kind of what they're doing here with those dashed lines. You see them on sewing cutting boards very often as guidelines, or when you have to cut for quilters too, not just people who sew clothing and other things, but quilters too. So guidelines for when you're cutting fabric and cutting a pattern. And within that, you have this sort of needle and thread motif design, little element there. And again, the star, a traditional star quilt pattern, although motif, it's differently constructed from this one. Well, it's the same in here too. Here, that star motif is made up with the center square and then the triangles on the corners, you know, forming this sort of star shape. But here, it's made up of these diamond shapes put together, and that's something else another star quilt pattern you often see. So there's 8 sort of diamond shapes there put together to make that same star shape silhouette. Still, the silhouette, the outer silhouette is the same. So that's that. You can see the pockets there, they go all the way down to the bottom of the base. There's some stiffener in there, but it's not removable. So that's that. Ooh. But I really do love, I just got to rave again about the channel stitching, because it really is, just feels great. It really feels great, and I wish they would do this more on some of their regular patterns, because it's nice. It's nice to have a little variety with the bags. So, you know, I like this placement of these 2 strips here. They're sort of nicely centered. I don't know if I said that, but they're sort of nicely centered. And again, everything is sort of properly vertical here. Here you can see you're starting to get a little crookedness on the back, right? Because down here, you see the strip is traveling up, and all of a sudden you're getting these stripes here. That strip is sort of listing to the side. So I feel like it's minimal on this bag, that any kind of crookedness, and so I'm leaning towards this bag. Like I said, I see on some other bags where there's stuff's just put together crooked, and it's really unfortunate. This sort of gives you a star motif. I feel like the position of the fabric here kind of gets me more of the stripe and a little less of the solid denim. So this one's looking a little bit lighter, which I like. I don't know if I can get past that crooked strip here, though. And like I was saying, this one definitely has more and better placed birds and bees. So I have a feeling I'm going to go with that one. It's so frustrating being me. Anyway, I hope people found that interesting, just to get a look at this pattern, which is commemorating a nice thing. Maybe not thoroughly complete like it should have been, but for everybody. But anyway, like I said, they can always rectify that by doing another limited edition. No problem considering another limited edition. What are you doing? Stop chewing my bags. Yeah, stop that. Anyway, I hope people found that helpful, and sorry for the dog interruptions. Hopefully see you next time on Vera Bradley Bag of the Day.